morning. Welcome to the Healthy Choices Kitchen at the Interfaith Food Pantry. I'm Katy Galton, the nutrition educator. Have you ever looked in your refrigerator and seen a lot of leftovers and you're not quite sure what to do with them? If you have done that, then this is the perfect recipe for you. Today I'm going to make vegetable fried rice, and you can use leftovers to make it delicious. So I'm going to get started. I'm going to turn on my oil. All right, I'm going to get my pan heated to a pretty high temperature. Get that going. One thing you want to make sure when you do this recipe is you want to have everything ready to go when you start the recipe, because once it starts, you really have to do the steps fairly quickly. So I have my vegetables chopped that I'm going to put in. I have my rice pre-cooked. You want to have that rice cooked, and even if it's leftover rice, it's even better. Makes the fried rice even better. And I have some other things ready to add in. The one thing I haven't done yet is finish chopping my ginger. So I'm going to put some fresh ginger in this. And if you haven't worked with fresh ginger, this is what it looks like. And the first thing you need to do is just peel it a little bit. So I've already peeled this. I used my vegetable peeler, just got that skin off. Some people like to use a spoon to take it off if that works for you, or if you don't have the peeler, you can try that. But I'm just going to slice it now into just some circles. And then I'm just going to take those circles and slice them into little sticks. And then I'm going to just mince those, cut those into little pieces. Get that one that got away. And then add those to what I've already chopped. We just need about a tablespoon of the ginger. If you don't want to use the ginger, the fresh ginger, you can also use dried ginger, or quite honestly, you can just leave it out. But it's up to you. So now we have all our ingredients ready. And I can see that my oil is ready. It's nice and hot. And so I'm going to add the vegetables that I've chopped already. I'm going to put in some onion. Oh yeah, you can hear that sizzle. We know that was ready. Some carrots. Now as I'm putting these in, you'll notice that they're all chopped about the same size. That's intentional. That's so they'll cook about pretty evenly as they cook. This is a red pepper that I chopped. You could use any color pepper. And then I have some celery. So these are things, maybe you had one carrot left, you can use it in this. Maybe you had 2 stalks of celery, you can use it. It's really a very forgiving recipe. It's one you use what you have. So I'm going to let these cook, just probably about 5 minutes, just to get them soft. And because they are in small pieces, they will cook fairly quickly. I think I forgot to mention that aside from being a great recipe and a great way to use leftovers, this is also a very heart-healthy recipe. One of the first things we think about when we think about what's part of a heart-healthy recipe are the kind of fats that we're using. And so in this recipe, we're using canola oil, which is an unsaturated fat. Whoa! So, the kind of fats that we really want to try to minimize in our diet are saturated fats. And they're the fats that come from animals. So if you're looking at a piece of meat, you might see the fat going through it. That's a saturated fat. If you're eating cheese, they have saturated fats. Milk. That's why the higher fat dairy products have saturated fats. A milk like 1% or skim milk have less saturated fats. And the reason we try to avoid the saturated fats is that they can increase our cholesterol levels. And we know that high cholesterol levels are a risk factor for heart disease. So as I mentioned, the unsaturated fats are going to be in the liquid oils. If they're liquid at room temperature, it's an unsaturated fat. If the fat is hard, like butter, at room temperature, it's a saturated fat. So we find unsaturated fats in the oils like canola oil, olive oil, soybean oil. Also in things like nuts, they're a good source of the unsaturated fats. Seeds like pumpkin seeds, chia seeds. And the unsaturated fats can actually help lower that cholesterol level. So the other things, which shouldn't surprise you, part of a heart-healthy diet is going to be vegetables. So vegetables, needless to say, have no cholesterol, which is a good thing. They have fiber, which is a good part of a heart-healthy diet. The more colors we eat, the better. And fresh vegetables count, frozen vegetables, canned vegetables. They're all good for our heart and lots of other things too. So I don't know if you can see, this is cooking. No, they're not. I'm going to let it cook just a few minutes more. Get a little bit soft there. Nice and hot. Feel that heat, and you do want to have it at a high heat. All right. I think these are just about done. And what I'm going to do next is I'm going to take these off of the heat and set them aside. So get my oil out of the way. Put them in a bowl here. Just put them in here. Okay. I'm going to turn, that heat is really high. I'm going to turn it down just a bit, just a bit. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put some oil back in the pan, some new oil. And I'm going to add my flavorings now. So I'm going to add just a little bit of garlic and my fresh ginger. Like I mentioned, if you don't want to use the fresh garlic, you could use garlic powder. If you wanted to use the ground ginger instead, you could do that, and you would just give that a quick stir in there. And this is I'm only going to heat these for about 10-15 seconds, just a little bit. I don't want them to burn. But right away, you can just smell them. They smell delicious. Okay, so next thing I'm going to do is put in my rice. Let me get this in and then I'll tell you about it. I'm going to put in a little bit of rice at a time. Stir it around. Ooh, you can hear that cooking, hear that crackling. Put it down just a tad. A little bit more brown rice. And the last of my brown rice. So the brown rice is a whole grain, so we know we're going to get more fiber from that. And again, fiber is an important part of that heart-healthy diet. Actually can help reduce your cholesterol as well. So I've made a little hole in the middle here. I'm going to put in my 2 eggs that I have mixed together. You can see why we had to have everything ready to go, because you don't have much time to spare in between. And I'm just going to mix those around, scramble that a little bit before I mix it in with the rest of the rice. there's some question with eggs about should they be part of a heart-healthy diet. Whoops, did you see that rice went flying right out of the pan? With eggs, there is some question about whether it can be part of a heart-healthy diet, but the general consensus is that it can be, especially for those that don't have a tendency towards heart disease, that we can really eat an egg a day. If you do have diabetes or heart disease, you'd need to be a little more cautious or careful about how many eggs you have in your diet. So as you can see, I've just put that egg in, mixed it in there. Now, this is the great part about this recipe. You can put whatever you want or have in it. So we've got that done. If you had leftover meat, some leftover chicken, some leftover beef, you could add that in. But I'm going to add in some vegetables because I like to get as many vegetables in as I can. So I'm going to add some peas in. These were frozen peas that I just thawed, or leftover peas would do. They're going to give you some protein too. Peas are a good source of protein, as long as beautiful color there. I'm going to mix them in. And then we're going to mix in, I'm going to add some baby spinach. I took my baby spinach, I chopped it to make it pretty small so it will wilt pretty quickly, because we all know when you put that spinach in, it's going to disappear pretty much. It's going to cook way down. I'm going to turn this down just a little bit now, because now I'm really just heating everything through. So we'll stir that spinach around. Again, I love to use as many vegetables as I can in whatever I'm cooking. And this fried rice gives you that opportunity to put as many in. You could use, if you had kale and liked kale, you could add that to it. If you had romaine lettuce, you could slice that very thinly and add the lettuce to it. And then all I need to do here is add my vegetables that I cooked initially back in. And we're going to get them added back in. Grab them. So they're going to go back in. We're going to have those beautiful colors, loaded with fiber. Oh yeah, look how that changes when you add those colors back into it. And so we'll get that stirred in. And then the last thing I'm going to add is some soy sauce to it. So I'm going to add a couple tablespoons of soy sauce. I'm using a lower sodium soy sauce. This is, I don't know if you can see, it's called less sodium soy sauce. Soy sauce is very high in sodium. So if you're using it, you look for the lower sodium, and still have to be careful how much you're using, because as part of a heart-healthy diet, we do want to not overdo our sodium. We want to watch our intake of that. That's why if you could add canned vegetables to this, if you were going to do that, rinse and drain the canned vegetables. But as you can see, our meal is finished. Let me turn this off. If you want to add a little salt and pepper at the end, what I would suggest doing is, give it a taste first to see if you really think that you need it. Personally, I don't, so I like the way it tastes right now. I wouldn't add any salt and pepper to it. But if you feel like you need a little bit, just put a pinch or so, taste it. And the same with the pepper. So here we are, our meal. Just one thing I want to mention. It can take a little bit of time to do the chopping for this, the prep work. But if you know you're going to make this and you have time ahead earlier in the day, night before, you can chop what you have. Or you can also take a shortcut by using some frozen vegetables. This is a combination of broccoli, sugar snap peas, carrots, and water chestnuts. So you could just really, instead of using the fresh vegetables at the beginning, you can use frozen vegetables, and then you have a really quick meal. But what we have is a great vegetable fried rice. It's heart healthy, has the unsaturated fats, it has lots of vegetables, and it has whole grains that help give us fiber. So enjoy it because it's good for you and it tastes delicious.